Standing at 7'4" with an 8-foot wingspan and has the mobility of a wing, Victor Wembanyama is in the middle of one of the greatest stretches we've ever seen in NBA history. A 27-point triple-double with 10 blocks, the rare 5x5 game, and in the month of February, Wemby recorded 47 blocks, which are more blocks than some entire franchises were able to record within that same time frame. And speaking of February, Wemby finished last month averaging 21 points, nearly 11 rebounds, 4.5 assists, nearly 4 blocks, 2 steals, while having a true shooting of 59%. The last time that we've seen anyone post up numbers like that within a 12-game span, you have to go all the way back to David Robinson in 1994, then Hakeem Olajuwon in 1993, and then before that, it was no one else. Yes. In the month of February, in the middle of his rookie season, Victor Wembanyama performed at levels that would rival all-time great stretches from all-time great players in the middle of their peaks. And oh yeah, just before I forget, he's doing this in his rookie season at the tender age of 20 years old. Which then forced me to ask the obvious question, is Victor Wembanyama having one of the greatest rookie seasons of all time? And as I started to dig deep into the numbers, I quickly came to the conclusion that obviously he is, but also comparing Wemby to other rookies is completely unfair, because within the first 50-some games of his career, Wemby is already performing at levels that rival all-time great players. Now, what exactly do I mean by this? Well, for starters, trying to figure out who had the greatest rookie season of all time is a very, very steep task, in large part because it is very irresponsible to just blindly compare numbers across the board to different players who play different positions, who have different responsibilities, and who play in different eras. And because of this, it's very hard to gauge what's more impactful when you're comparing a power forward who is more leaning statistically in categories such as rebounding and blocks, in contrast to a guard whose statistical profile may be more leaning towards assists and steals. However, what makes Wemby so special is that you can actually do both. Throughout NBA history, there have only been 4 players in their rookie season to average 20 points, 10 rebounds, and 3 blocks. Those players being David Robinson, Alonzo Mourning, Shaquille O'Neal, and Victor Wembanyama. And then if I want to say how many players in their rookie season were able to average 20 points, 3 assists, and a steal, well, there's only a dozen players who've been able to accomplish that feat. Some of the more noteworthy names being Donovan Mitchell, Luka Doncic, Allen Iverson, Larry Bird, Michael Jordan, LeBron James, and of course, Victor Wembanyama. And for the people out there who are wondering what exactly is Wemby's stat line for the season, well, during his rookie campaign so far, he is averaging nearly 21 points, 10 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 blocks, and a steal. And yes, there is no other player in NBA history who's been able to average that stat line during their rookie season. Now, to be fair to the field, there are several other players during their rookie season who do come relatively close, and that's me being very generous. Certain players may not record as many rebounds and blocks, but you could very well make the argument that they make up the production in their scoring ability or how many assists they record. But even if I were that flexible with some of these numbers, the players that come up are literally some of the greatest rookies the league has ever seen. Magic Johnson, Hakeem Olajuwon, Alonzo Mourning, Shaquille O'Neal, Tim Duncan, Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, and David Robinson. And honestly, even though they didn't record steals and blocks back in the day, realistically speaking, we could also claim that both Kareem and Wilt Chamberlain would probably be on this list as well. But even if we don't add those 2 players on the list, if we could take a step back and look at the players that I just named, you can clearly see that these are not only some of the greatest rookie seasons in NBA history, but also players who went on to have Hall of Fame careers, most of which are considered to be top 30 players of all time. And out of all of these rookie seasons, the player who produced a stat line that closely mimicked Victor Wembanyama's was David Robinson, as D-Rob averaged 24 points, 12 rebounds, 4 blocks to go along with 2 assists and nearly 2 steals. But keep in mind that David Robinson committed 4 years to college, was drafted in 1987, but didn't come into the NBA 2 years later because he did 2 years of service in the Navy. So when it was finally David Robinson's rookie season, he was coming into the NBA at 24 years old, while Wemby was a teenager for most of the season. Which is crazy, but it doesn't stop there, because even if I were to open up the parameters to all players throughout NBA history, regardless of what season that they were in, this season Wemby is the first player since MVP Shaq to have a season where he's averaging at least 20 points, 10 rebounds, 3 assists, and 3 blocks. Now yes, Shaq leading the league in scoring, averaging nearly 30, is a pretty wide margin in scoring discrepancy, so as I continued my search, the players that I was able to find that closely mimicked what Victor is doing this season was 1993 David Robinson, 1979 Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and 1977 Bill Walton. All three of these players for their respective seasons would not only be named as All-Stars, but also make the All-Defensive Team, All-NBA Team, and even get MVP consideration. In particular, Bill Walton finishing second in the MVP race. So again, when I say comparing Wemby to other rookies honestly isn't fair when his sheer production numbers stand up to all-time greats during some of their better years. And what makes it even harder to believe is that the deeper I dug into the numbers, the more footage I watched, and just overall being more detailed with Wemby, it became abundantly clear that if any player in NBA history was looking this good, no one would ever assume that they were a rookie. I say this because during my research, there was three things that stood out to me. First was his defense. Defensively speaking, this is easily the best rookie that we've seen since Tim Duncan, and more than likely Wemby would join a very short list of players who had the ability to make an all-league defensive team while in his rookie season. The numbers that back up this sentiment are not only ridiculous, as Wemby leads the league in blocks with over 3 a game, he is easily one of the best rim protectors in the NBA as well, as he holds opponents to under 53% at the rim when he's contesting. That is on par with Rudy Gobert, Brook Lopez, Anthony Davis, and Jared Allen. But what was really eye-opening to me were the on-off numbers. When Wemby is on the floor, the San Antonio Spurs have a defensive rating of 112.4, which will make the Spurs a top 4 defense in the NBA. However, when Wemby is off the floor, the Spurs have a defensive rating of 120.1, which is a bottom 4 defense in the association. That not only means that the Spurs literally go from one of the best to one of the worst defenses in the NBA, depending on what type of playing time Wemby is getting on a game-to-game basis, but more importantly, an 8-point swing in defensive efficiency is ridiculous. And if you don't believe the numbers tell the whole story, when you just watch Wemby play, defensively, he is very clearly one of the top 5 defenders in the NBA. For someone who is 7'4", having the ability to laterally move the way that Wemby does is practically unfair. His ability to deflect and playing passing lanes is really hard to get a pass off around him, but his ability to erase and alter shots is what really separates him from everyone else. There have been several times throughout the year where a ball handler believes that he has a quality look at the basket as he probes into the lane, but that look that was perceived to be a quality one gets erased out of nowhere thanks to Wemby's 8-foot wingspan. And the true value behind this isn't necessarily the block, rather than Wemby forcing the rest of the league to reconsider what they believe to be a good look. And this is not only happening around the basket, but even on jump shots that span all the way to the 3-point line, Wemby is able to pull off a closeout, contest, and even a block on shots that no one else in the NBA would be able to pull off. But by far the most amazing thing to watch from this 7'4" defensive god is when you believe that Wemby has somehow put himself out of defensive positioning by contesting a shot that he really shouldn't be contesting, he still somehow finds a way to not only get off a good contest, but somehow still may even be able to record a block. The second thing that I noticed is that Wemby is actually improving. See, in the NBA community, we have this thing called the rookie wall, where in the middle of the first year, you normally see a young player start to regress around the month of February and March, in large part because these young players are not accustomed to playing 82 games within a short amount of time. But instead of regressing, what we're seeing from the 20-year-old is a leap that not only is clearing the rookie wall, but a leap that is so impressive that we would normally start to see this level of improvement from a player in year 3 or 4. Statistically speaking, across the boards, we can see increases in Wemby's numbers, in particular with his offensive game, as he has seen a lot of maturity in the scoring aspect and leveraging the attention that he gets from the defense to also turn into a better passer and playmaker. In the beginning part of the season, practically nothing was effective for Wemby outside of the restricted area, which was extremely beneficial to the opposing team, especially when the 19-year-old used to infamously float around the 3-point line or settle for long twos. But now, over the last 19 to 20 games, he has matured immensely as a 3-point shooter, in particular on his pull-up 3-point shots, which he's converting those at a staggering 47%. And no, these are not a small sample size. Practically half of the 3-pointers that Wemby has attempted over the past 20 games have been pull-up 3-point jumpers. So yeah, that's ridiculous. But the most maturation I've seen with Wemby with his scoring ability has been his level of assertiveness to make his presence being felt in the paint and around the rim. This not only results into easier looks for the now 20-year-old as well as getting to the free throw line, but more importantly, importantly, Wemby's ability to leverage the attention that he receives from the opposing team to give his teammates better looks, which then results into better offense, is something that has really impressed me. And it's not just passing out of the post. He can drive to the basket while making the correct reads. He magically now has a really good passing touch around the rim. And every now and then we do see the occasional one-handed skip pass. Those small glimpses into a very much improved passer and playmaker is not only impressive but very scary, because now a player who entered the NBA who seemed to have some type of ceiling offensively has already started to outgrow that ceiling within a matter of months. But easily the biggest takeaway from looking deeper into Victor Wembanyama's rookie season is that he is looking this good this early on, and he's not even in a situation that is maximizing who he is as a player. Now, what exactly do I mean by this? Well, for starters, in the beginning part of the season, Gregg Popovich took a very liberal approach on positionless basketball by allowing Jeremy Sochan to initiate a lot of the action in the half-court sets. And for those who aren't aware, Jeremy Sochan is a forward, not a guard, so allowing him to initiate offense was certainly an experiment, to say the least. What makes it even more disgusting is that it's not like the Spurs didn't have an adequate guard to put next to Wemby in the starting lineup, because they did, and they've done so recently, and the results have been unbelievable. That guard being Tre Jones, and since the turn of the calendar year, the Spurs have looked significantly better when Jones is on the floor with Wemby and Sochan is actually playing the forward position with Zach Collins on the bench. Now you may be wondering, how good do they look? Well, when the Spurs run a lineup that features Keldon Johnson, Devin Vassell, Tre Jones, Jeremy Sochan, and Victor Wembanyama, they have an offensive rating of 120, a defensive rating of 100, which produces a net rating of plus 20. Out of all of the lineups in the NBA that have received over 100 minutes, that is the fourth best lineup in the association this year. But the biggest reason why I say that Wemby has not been maximized this year, and what has been the most mind-blowing fact that I have found throughout all of my research, is that Victor Wembanyama is doing all of these things while being on a minutes restriction. Wembanyama only has one game so far this year where he's played over 36 minutes. Only 11 games where he's played 32 minutes or more. And for the entire season, on average, he only plays 29 minutes a game. So yeah, the game where he recorded a triple-double with 10 blocks, he did that in about 30 minutes. The 5x5 game, yeah, about 30 minutes. Throughout the entire month of February, when he recorded more blocks than some teams in the NBA, yeah, he did all of that while playing less than 30 minutes a game. But more importantly, all of the numbers when I was comparing him to other all-time greats, some of which while at the peak of their powers, yes, all of those numbers are being recorded while Victor is playing 8 to 10 minutes fewer than his peers. Victor Wembanyama is special, so special that if I just view him through the lens of being a rookie, it would be severely doing a disservice to how great he has been early on this year. Because though this is his first season, Victor Wembanyama is already playing at levels that could easily put him in conversations with other all-time great players.